He's 94 years old. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, takes a scrap piece of paper, a pen, and he writes, "I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do what I ought to do, or ought to be done by me," right? Is that cool? At 94. So if he said it, and he wrote it at 94, let's say it together. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Isn't that the best affirmation for a 7 on the Enneagram that you've ever heard? Or for anybody who's got lots of energy. So the human condition is we can use the power of zeal. We can use enthusiasm, motivation, inspiration in a way that comes from our personality, from our sense consciousness. And it doesn't always serve the best. It could be an underdeveloped sense of zeal and enthusiasm where we're listless, no enthusiasm, lethargic, little zest for life, okay? It's our choice. Or it could be overdeveloped, which is just the opposite in terms of problems, where we're being zealous, impulsive. I've never been accused of that. Ruthless, compulsive, yeah. And so we have this choice, we have this power, and we can use it strictly from our personality, we can use it in an underdeveloped way or an overdeveloped way, and we can use it to be the eternal pessimist. Anybody knows of people that are the eternal pessimists that, what else could go wrong, What a sad way to live life. But then there's always a spiritual solution to this human condition. And that spiritual solution is to use our power of zeal, our enthusiasm, our motivation, our inspiration from our divine nature, from our spiritual selves, from a spiritual point of view, and centered, and using all these powers we've been studying to bring forth in our life what we want. And I think of using zeal from that point of view, from our divine nature, is we're the eternal optimist, looking for what's going right. And do you know what an eternal optimist, an optimist says when you ask, what can go right? What do they say? Everything. Everything can go right. What if it could be easy? What if it could be fun? Wouldn't that be great? So, we can use our powers, any of our powers. Today I'm focusing on zeal. We can use our power of zeal in a way that is positive and empowering and supportive, or we can use it in a way that is the opposite of that. And it depends on us. We have this incredible choice and this ability to decide. We talked about the executive faculty of will. Will is the decision maker. So we have this power to decide. And then, we're going to put some fuel behind it, right? Some zeal, so that we get that decision off the ground, okay? Because otherwise it just sits there and doesn't do much. So why do you think it might be important for you to develop and use your spiritual power of zeal? What benefit do you see in that? Anybody can shout it out.
Living longer.
Living longer. Yes, getting that life force moving. We don't want any congestion or constriction of the life force. Life is going to be one of the powers that we talk about too. So yeah, zeal's absolutely related. Any other ideas you have for why it could benefit you to use makes you happy. Yeah, yeah. We can fake it till we make it, right? And sometimes I like to say we can faith it till we make it. Okay? Cool. Yes, Debbie?
What we hold in our minds is what we attract. And so if we're optimistic, I think we can expect to attract optimism and happiness.
Yeah, so if you want to make sure it gets on the tape, but yeah, so what we hold in our mind, we attract. So the more optimistic, enthusiastic, and all that, that's what we're going to attract. We're like a tuning fork. You know, so we're going to vibrate that zeal and enthusiasm, inspiration and motivation, and that's what we're going to attract in our lives. So, great. And then I wrote down a couple things. I already told you it fuels your decision, so it gets that Ferrari out of the garage, you know. You can't enjoy it without it. And it helps us over the hurdles of life when we have challenges and stuff. Our zeal and enthusiasm can help us there. And it's contagious. Just like the tuning fork, right? All the other tuning forks start vibrating to the same, you know, what's it called? The same vibration. Tempo. There you go. It's the same tempo. And so it's contagious. And when we're, you know, sometimes when I'm walking in, like in the grocery store or something, and all of a sudden somebody just smiles. And I don't know if it's because I'm smiling and they're smiling back, or they smiled and I smiled back, but it really is contagious. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, some of you may know of him as a while back, and he was a great teacher of positivity. He wrote a book called The Positive Principle Today, and he said, think excitement, talk excitement, act out of excitement, and you are bound to become an exciting person. That's all you have to do, right? That's all you have to do is think it, talk it, and act it. He said, life will take on a new zest, deeper interest, and greater meaning. You can think, talk, and act yourself into dullness, or into monotony, or into unhappiness. And by the same process, you could build up inspiration, excitement, and surging depth of joy. Those all sound like great reasons to develop our spiritual power of zeal. And Linda Martella-Whitsett, in her book Divine Audacity, which is a great book on the 12 powers, it's one that our prayer chaplains studied a few years ago, and she says, zeal is wasted when directed toward an arrival point in the future, because zeal can only be experienced in the present moment. So in this present moment, I can be excited about the prospect for the future, but I want to be present to that zeal. I want to feel it right now and vibrate it out. You know, those of you who know the law of attraction, as we vibrate it out, we attract it. And she says, zeal presses towards the future, but it is necessary to live in the present in order to get to the future. An appreciation of the moment's possibility grounds us in zeal. We can appreciate our future potential while living consciously in the now. And, you know, I think, somebody said to me the other day, in fact it was Jerry, if you don't mind me saying, when I told them what our balance was on the building loan, and now $750 less than it was then, I was telling Jerry and Carol, and Jerry said, well, you know, Brenda, you just always thought we could do it. And it was true. There was never any doubt in my mind. I didn't know how. I didn't know who. I didn't know any of that. But I knew we could have our own building. I knew we could pay off that loan. And I never questioned it. And I know some of you thought I was crazy. And it's okay. Because it reminds me of a story of when I was first in the job as minister here, and we were at the women's club, and I was trying to figure out how to grow the ministry. And I had an appointment with this Center for Spiritual Living minister down in Albuquerque. And because I went to talk about how he grew this church that he had in California. And the day I was scheduled to go down and talk to him, we had a big snowstorm, so I couldn't get down. So I called him on the phone and I said, so Patrick, what I really wanted to ask you was, how did you grow that church? You know, how did you do it? And he said, you've got to have a dream. And you've got to put it out there every week. And, you know, have people catch that vision. And I was like, oh, Patrick, I think I'm afraid to dream. And he said, that's what's blocking it. That's what's blocking it. And so I had a coach at the time named Roger Edwards, and I was scheduled to have a meeting. I was supposed to call him to schedule a meeting, and I kept procrastinating. And so he called me and he said, look, I'm only in Santa Fe 2 days this month, you know, this day or this day, and let's get together. And I said, he said, why haven't you called? And I said, well, because I haven't done the homework from our last session. And he said, well, fine, we'll get together and talk about why you didn't do your homework, you know? And so I said, well, you know, and I just got off the phone with this guy, Patrick, and I told him what Patrick had said. And he said, well, why are you afraid to dream? And I thought about it and I said, I'm afraid I'll fail. What would, you know, and he said, well, what if you failed? And I said, oh, I would be so ashamed. I'd be so embarrassed that I put it out there and then it didn't happen. And he said, really? I said, really? And he said, well, who are these people that would make you feel ashamed and embarrassed? And I didn't want to mention any names. So I was just silent. And he said, well, what would the people who love you and support you, what would they say if you failed? And I said, well, they would say, good for you for trying. Now get off your butt and do it again. Keep going. That's zeal. Keep going when we have these hurdles, when we have these difficulties, to not let that throw a bucket of water on our zeal and enthusiasm. Because we've got to have that. We've got to have that passion. We've got to have that motivation. It motivates us. It pushes us forward. So I thought about the story of Saul and Paul in the Christian scripture. And, you know, Saul of Tarsus was basically well, he would do anything to stop this newly emerging sect that was forming out of the teachings of Jesus. And he was zealous in what he would do, you know, to stop them. And then he had this conversion experience on the road to Damascus, and he was struck blind and, you know, really had an eye-opening awakening, if you will. And in the Bible, when someone has a conversion experience and they change their name. And so his name was changed from Saul to Paul. And as Paul, he was also zealous, but he put it in a different direction. And he continued with his zeal and enthusiasm, but he utilized it to promote and spread the movement that eventually became Christianity. Some people say without Paul, it wouldn't be with us today. So we can use zeal in different ways. And I thought about the fact that today there's multiple examples of the use of the power of zeal in the context of religion that is nothing to be proud of, right? We have suicide bombers and those who will go to any length to promote and promulgate their religious views. You know, I think sometimes if Jesus came back, he would say, you did what to who in my name? Give me a break, people. That is not what I taught you. But that's a misuse of zeal when that happens. And then you contrast that to someone like Mother Teresa and how she used her zeal and passion of seeing the Christ in everybody and all those people on the streets of Calcutta who were dying. And she put her passion towards, letting them die in dignity and being loved. So again, and then I think of myself, in my 20s, 30s, I was into my 40s, into my early 40s, I was very zealous. And my zeal showed up as being a party girl. I was quite the party girl. I was a very heavy drinker of alcohol. And I could do a 3-hour stand-up comedy routine of totally inappropriate jokes for the pulpit, jokes that were off-color and politically totally incorrect, okay? That's who I was. When I see people now that I knew back then, they go, "You're a minister?" They can't believe it. And I tell you, the hardest part of ministry for me was learning to tell clean jokes. I searched, thank God we have Google, it really helps. And so I turned that zeal around. And I'm using my zeal now since for the past 25 years to really to learn more about universal spiritual principles, and to not only learn it myself, but to spread it, to share it, so that hopefully you will be motivated to realize that divine being that you are, and to allow that divine being that you are to radiate out from you and show up in every area of your life. So, whatever the passion, the power of zeal is behind it. There cannot be passion without zeal. And any time we start something, whether we realize it or not, we're using our power of zeal. Whether that's something for good or for not so good. So we're using all of our 12 powers all the time. And what my purpose in this series on the 12 powers is to make us conscious of it and to develop these powers in a way that serves us and all creation. So how do we do this? We know that it's always prayer and meditation. That's always my first how-to. And in this case, I found another quote from Linda Martello-Whitsitt in Divine Audacity. She said, "The potency of zeal comes from within. Zeal is an inner flame." So where do we stoke that inner flame, right? We do it in prayer and meditation. Not just in our formal time for sitting on the cushion and doing our silence, our journey into the silence, but anytime we turn to our divine nature and we seek our guidance from that divine nature, our wisdom, then we have that opportunity to stoke that inner flame that zeal is. Another way that you can put feet on your zeal is to go to our sacred service fair today and to consider what team that you have passion for. And another saying that Charles Fillmore, I think I can remember it, he said, "I serve for the joy of serving, and prosperity flows to me in rivers of plenty." Something. That's close enough. Anyway, so the idea is to serve for the joy of serving. And we can only do that when we have a passion for what it is that we're doing in terms of our gifts of time, talent, and treasure. So, I celebrate that each one of us leaves the service today fired up, with our zeal and enthusiasm and allowing that energy of motivation and passion and inspiration to spring forth with a mighty faith to do what ought to be done by each one of us. And let's begin doing that right now in a sacred time of shared prayer. So I invite us again to be fully present to this moment. Being particularly aware of our breath. Just letting the breath find its own rhythm and pace. Allowing it to move in us, through us, as us, just dissolving into the nothingness from which it came, anything unlike the life that it represents, the zeal, the enthusiasm that it represents. And with your inner vision, hold the picture of radiant Christ light flowing in through the crown chakra, the Christ chakra. And see that white light turning a brilliant orange and going direct to the base of the brain, the medulla, which is the center of zeal in our life. And seeing that orange, bright orange light. Imagine it as we breathe in and out as if through the medulla. See it getting brighter and brighter. Sparking a sense of zeal and enthusiasm in us. And then just notice that brilliant orange light permeating every cell and atom of our bodies, our hearts, our souls, our minds. And as you continue breathing, as if breathing in and out through the zeal and enthusiasm center in the base of the brain, starting with the first level of our development of our power of zeal, I invite you to hear these affirmations as if spoken by you to you through my voice. And just, you might want to discern, where am I? Which level of development of my spiritual power of zeal am I? And you can do that in general or pick a specific situation in your life. And so the first level is dissatisfaction. I love divine dissatisfaction. In Unity we call it divine discontent. And just affirm silently, divine dissatisfaction awakens in me an urge towards spiritual growth. That's its positive intention, to urge us towards spiritual growth. The second level is desire. Desire impels me to seek spiritual understanding. Desire impels me to seek spiritual understanding. Dedication. With joyous expectation, I dedicate myself to the will and the work of the inner Christ. With joyous expectancy, I dedicate myself to the will and the work of the Christ within, my divine nature. Zeal, the inward fire of spiritual zeal, urges me on to greater experiences of God's good. Urges me on to greater experiences of God's good. Quickening. I am quickened in mind and body by the compelling awareness of my own divinity. The compelling awareness of my own divinity quickens in mind and body. Genius. Is Dr. Joe here? He always calls us geniuses. I listen to God's voice within and act fearlessly and courageously at all times and under all circumstances. Not sometimes, not under some circumstances, but at all times and under all circumstances, I listen to God's voice within and act fearlessly and courageously. And at the level of oneness, this level is called energy. I am unified with the energy of the universe. I am unified with the energy of the universe. And I would add, I no longer have zeal and enthusiasm. I am zeal and enthusiasm. I barely sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and I spring forth with a mighty faith to do what ought to be done by me. I am in the flow of divine zeal, an inexhaustible supply of passion and readiness. I do not dissipate that power by empty or frenetic activity. Instead, I remain wholehearted and single-minded in my spiritual practice of zeal. I am inspired and focused, exhilarated in my sense of purpose, in the silence. As we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, silently say, thank you, divine zeal that I am. Thank you for this energy of my divine nature that enables me to be enthusiastic, motivated, and inspired. Thank you, thank you, thank you that it is so, and so it is, and so I am. Amen.
Turn off your mind, relax and float downstream. It is time. It is time. Lay down all thoughts, surrender to the
That you may see the meaning of within. It is me. It is me. And love is all, and love is everyone. It is knowing, it is knowing.
ready.